Hello, hi, welcome back to my channel. It is me, your favorite successful social media influencer, because influence can be bad, the Outernet Explorer. Welcome back. So I had a quite different video for today, not gonna lie. I'm still working on it. I am in the middle of, well, actually nowhere close to the middle, but I am currently editing it. There is a lot of work ahead of me because I was working for like 7 hours on this thing and I have 3 hours of footage out of it. So yeah, there is a lot that needs to be done and I feel like it's not going to be a very good video, but I'm hoping that people will maybe like it. I'm extremely tired after yesterday and I'm not particularly happy with the results, but since I put so much work and effort into making this happen, I will make sure that it ends up on the internet because I just can't let all this time go to waste. But as I was editing it, I just had some thoughts that I thought, you know what, I could turn into a video too. One thing that you need to know before we get any further into this video is that it's not scripted. I usually script my videos at least a little bit because for me, talking to the camera like that is a bit of a problem. I've tried it a few times before and trust me, I don't think I have ever released any of this footage. Unless I'm doing something specific like makeup or I'm playing a game or I'm with somebody else, then the rest of my videos are pretty much scripted because I can't talk to the camera. I just stutter a lot. I make very long breaks. I dissociate when I'm just doing this spontaneously like that. So if this video seems a little chaotic, that's probably why. Sometimes people approach me and ask me what my name is and how they should refer to me. And I can understand why this seemingly basic thing causes so much confusion because you'll see a lot of people call me Zoe. You'll see other people call me Raz. And then you may even see a group of people call me by a completely different name. So I thought that maybe I would address this and refer people to this video whenever they ask me what my name is. So just to be clear, I mostly go by Zoe or by Raz. Or Raz, as most Americans say. I prefer Raz because it automatically draws attention to my most prominent features. But neither of these is my real name. Neither of these is the name that is on my birth certificate. And I'm just gonna give you a small spoiler. Outernet Explorer isn't my real name either. Although, my god, do I wish it was. But there is quite a story behind why I use these names and why very few people refer to me with my real name. And I'm going to share it with you guys. It all starts with my childhood. No, but really it does, because that's about the time when you usually get your legal name, right? Growing up, I didn't like my real name. And one of the reasons for that is because there was this children's song about a doll who had the same name. I just really disliked it. I disliked the feeling of being compared to a doll. And it was an extremely popular song. And later on when I went to school, some people would make parodies of this song and sing it to me and stuff like that. It wasn't really a big deal, just to be clear. It's not something that traumatized me forever or anything. Plus my name is actually quite popular in my country, so it's not like it was exclusively only my experience. I bet there are many people out there who can relate to this. I remember my family really early on trying to convince me that my name is really pretty and so cute and so fun, but it didn't really work. And quite early on, I had a little bit of an experience that shaped me into the person that I am today, but also into the person that I was growing up. As in, it was a little bit traumatic for me. It took many years for me to process it and to understand it. And I believe that's mostly the reason why in my childhood I was really heavily disconnected from my sense of self. Like, I literally couldn't understand the process of liking something. I'm not sure if that makes sense, but for example with fashion, because like I know it's very superficial, but we're talking about me as a kid when I was like 6, 7, 8 years old. At least that's when I remember struggling with these things. My god, you have no idea how many times I tried to say this sentence. You have no clue. I couldn't understand why certain color combinations or types of clothing worked well together. Like, it was something that I could clearly see that was very easy for my sister, for my classmates, or for just my friends. But I could never understand what was the logic behind it. And you know what? Fair enough, because if we're talking about 90s or early 2000s, that fashion sense, oh, there were some questionable decisions made back then. I had a really hard time understanding why like people liked certain types of music or disliked certain types of music or musicians. It's not necessarily a strange thing for kids, I think. I was definitely copying a lot of people. I was observing and learning, and I was definitely trying to say the things that other people say because they seemed to be true. They seemed to be the right thing to say. Like, especially my sister, because she was older than me, I was definitely trying to copy her in many ways. And that's just normal for kids, okay? That's just something that younger siblings do. However, it wasn't just that. I feel like I was just completely lost, not just when it came to liking things or disliking things, but I just never really understood who I was or what I was. I can't really put it in a proper way because it's not like kids think about this stuff all that much. I mean, some do, but it's not like every kid has an existential crisis or anything like that. It felt like something that was on a more subconscious level. I just felt disconnected in some sense. And that definitely affected me a little later on in my life. At some point when I was in primary school, one of the boys in my class, during a break, pointed at me and called me a word that is a pretty outdated word used to describe a mean, stubborn woman. It's not super offensive. He was just trying to tease me, I think, or something like that. And, you know, I got mad and I said, "No, don't call me that." And he just pointed at me again and said this word again. And I was like, "Don't call me that." And I think he used this specific word because it was kind of similar to my real name. But from that point, everybody around me in my class just started calling me that word. It automatically, for some reason, became my nickname. Obviously, that I believe that's why people started using it, because I would get a little mad and that was, you know, a way to tease me and mock me a little bit. But after a short while, I just kind of accepted it and I started to like it. I think that's because I just, generally speaking, didn't like my real name and didn't like when people used it. So I was so quick and happy to accept a different alternative, even if normally it's used to offend somebody. And to be fair, that word doesn't necessarily have to be offensive. It can be a word to, you know, describe a tough bitch or something like that. Just a person who doesn't give a fuck. But it is highly feminine as well as mostly used to describe women. But yeah, I ended up liking it for some reason. To the point where if somebody in my class used my real name, I felt like it was in an effort to mock me and to offend me. And when I went to middle school and throughout high school, I would still use this nickname when I was introducing myself to other people. But around high school, things started to change a little bit. For example, my closest group of friends at the time just randomly started calling me by my real name, even though they knew that I didn't like it. And I can understand why they decided to do that, because, like, you know, we just grew up and maybe they just were no longer comfortable with using this term instead of my real name. I could understand how that would be a little awkward when they were, for example, talking to somebody else and referring to me and using this word. That could be a little bit confusing because they're like, "Oh, this is my best friend," and then you use a word that's considered offensive. So I understand how that might look a little weird, but they didn't really ever tell me why, and I felt a little disappointed, a little sad that they decided to just shift back to my real name, because I still didn't like it. I was slowly getting used to it, I guess, at that point. 16, 17 years into your life, finally getting used to your real name. About time, I suppose. But I don't really blame them too much, honestly. I really don't, because I can understand the reasons why. I wish we had talked about it, but it doesn't really matter at this point at all. So when I finally got out of high school and became a kind of adult, I went to the Academy of Fine Arts somehow. That was an interesting experience. And I've noticed that since we were all adults now, people were slowly becoming very uncomfortable with using this term. But like I was so focused on using something else than my name that I just refused to give people my real name sometimes. And that led to like many stupid situations where they were trying to guess my real name, especially since it's not that hard to guess when you're given this nickname. And that would just make me super uncomfortable, but what could I possibly do? But around the age of 20 or 21, my best friend at the time called me Zoe. He kind of had this phase in his life where he would anglicize names of his friends. I don't know why he did that. I thought it was kind of silly at the time, but if that's what people liked, I don't see anything wrong with that. So he just randomly decided to call me Zoe. It's not an English form of my real name. It was somewhat close to the nickname that people gave me before. And it's a little funny because after he did this, a lot of people around me who were not connected with him in any way started calling me Zoe as well. It just started happening. So I started using Zoe because it was fun, it was short, it was easy, it didn't require any explanation, although it still led to situations where people were trying to guess my real name because obviously they wouldn't believe that it's Zoe. And that's how Zoe was born, basically. I started using that. I changed my name on Facebook to that, and it just kind of worked. But you know, I started to get a little more active career-wise. And for work, I would usually use my real name because that's what was in my resume and stuff like that. But I went to this corpo and we had a training with an American person. And since it was a native English speaker, I decided to use Zoe because I realized that it would probably be a little easier for them to say. So I just said Zoe when we were introducing ourselves. And they were, you know, perfectly fine with that. I know that a few people out there probably thought that it was a little obnoxious and a little silly because they quickly found out that my real name isn't Zoe. And in fact, I did have one person tell me right into my face that they thought it was stupid for me to call myself Zoe. Or just, you know, to use a nickname at work. I can see why that might have been seen as a little immature. I can't really speak for everyone here when I say this, but I do think that this company had respect for the way that people choose to identify themselves. So when they realized that I used Zoe instead of my real name, they immediately approached me and asked me how I would like to be referred to. And at that point in my life, I didn't really have that much problem with my name, with my real name. I didn't like it. I especially don't like the short form that most people use. So I said that I like the long form or Zoe, and you can choose which one you prefer. And most people choose Zoe. I suppose the long form of my legal name feels a little too formal. And I actually like the longer form of my name now. I don't like the shortened ones. They make me think of this goddamn song. But generally speaking, I don't mind it all that much if people use it. So we covered the history of Zoe. And let me tell you where Raz came from. When I started promoting my art on Facebook, I quickly realized that having one account is a bad idea because you can get banned for basically anything. So I have multiple accounts on Facebook for that reason. And one of these accounts was Raz. How did I come up with this name exactly? Well, let me tell you. I don't know, a few years ago I heard about this concept of the 13th zodiac sign. And I just thought it was so interesting and fun because that would be my sign if it actually officially existed. And I was really into it because I thought, wow, that's so interesting and something that I can identify more than this Sagittarius business. Like, I don't know. Don't ask me anything about zodiac signs or astrology. I know nothing about that. I actually have a lot of respect for astrology because it's extremely, extremely complex, and people who say astrology is bullshit do not realize that. But that being said, I know nothing about that. I was just entertaining myself at that point. And this zodiac sign is called Ophiuchus. It's a serpent collector. The alpha star of that constellation is called this. Even though it's a name that I use, I am not going to try and say it because I know I am going to butcher it. I know that Americans say Razzlehag and I think it's disgusting. I mean, I just don't like it. But here is the proper way to say it. Maybe, apparently, I'm not sure. I took it from Google.
رأس الحوائي.
And I used this name for my backup Facebook account. And a year ago, I made a decision to start doing nude art, erotic art, and I realized that, you know what? some people on my main account might not want to see it. So I just started posting from that account, and that was the only reason why. And since then, I actually gained quite a bit of following because a lot of people suddenly started to enjoy my art. So I just kept posting under this name. I changed my Instagram to this name, and that's what people who mostly know me for my art refer to me with. And like I said, I prefer Raz, but a lot of people say Raz. But the truth is, it's only one of many of my identities, because that's kind of how I see it. I see Raz as my artistic identity, sort of. It is me. It is still me, just to be clear. It's not a persona. I just see it as part of my identity. The part that puts the titty in identity. The truth is, it's only one of many. When I discovered this amazing thing called the internet, I realized that I could be anyone. As a child, as an early teenager, I would often create a bunch of blogs, a bunch of accounts on different websites under different names because I loved the idea of just, I guess, being somebody else. Or maybe being myself, for that matter. I loved just identifying as not what most people assumed I was. I'm not sure that makes any sense. When I was younger, those were mostly feminine names, feminine identities, because I just assumed that I have to use these because I was born with a vagina. Therefore, I must use female identities and I must identify as female. Especially in my country, our language is heavily gendered. It was a dead giveaway and it was kind of bothering me. But then I moved on to the English side of the internet, and I even remember that for some time my DeviantArt account said that I'm genderless. And that was way before I was any familiar with the LGBTQ community, and I had no education, I had no experience, I had no idea what gender was at that time. And now that I have educated myself on the matter a little bit, I have a little bit of a better understanding of what I am and who I am and what I've always been, essentially. And it's definitely fun because gaining this kind of knowledge and listening to other people and their experiences has really been a massive step forward for me. And I went through various different identities because I kind of like this idea, this freedom that I felt when I could just express myself any way I wanted. But as soon as people knew a little too much about me, for example, that I used female pronouns or what my actual name was, it would automatically just destroy everything for me. Okay, I digress quite a bit. Oh, and there is also one more thing. Like, my name wasn't just my problem. It was also the problem of my family, because for some reason, the fact that I had all these nicknames felt like a personal attack to some of my family members. Others were fine with them. Others would even call me by my nicknames. But some of them just hated it and took it very, very personally, as if that was an attack on them. A huge step forward for me was 2016, when I managed to limit the contact I had with some people who had a very bad influence on me throughout my whole life. Another huge step was when in 2019 I completely cut these people off. And that was not too long ago. We're talking about a little more than a year ago. That's when I just really started to actually be myself. And just to be clear, 2019 was a horrible, horrible year for me. Every single month was a different kind of a heartbreak. So for me, 2020 was actually pretty chill. Which I know is a bizarre thing to say. But it was also a year where I was able to really educate myself and really do a lot of self-discovery and confront myself with a lot of things that had happened before. And it shows through my art, it shows through what I do. And I'm really, really happy that I'm doing what I'm doing, because I'm finally doing something for myself. I'm doing something that has always been so extremely important to me and that I've wanted to do for such a long time. I'm just happy to finally be able to explore who I am. It's bizarre. I'm 28 years old. And looking back at anything that happened before 2020 for me, it feels like it was ages ago. And it's not like it was the first time I was like, oh, who am I? I did spend some time working on it, working on myself. I went to therapy for a few years in my early 20s because, you know, I had all these traumas that I needed to focus on and resolve in some sense. At least that's what I thought about therapy back then. Now I know that it's not just something that you can just, pop, done. It's something that stays with me and is within me and shaped me into what I am today. I know that I am in a seemingly heteronormative relationship right now, but a huge, massive, oh my god, what the fuck moment for me was when I realized I'm not straight. I think I realized that as an early teenager for the first time, that I was starting to explore this area, you know, when the puberty hit, basically. But then due to some unfortunate events, I kind of repressed this part of me for a very long time until I was like 19 or 20. And then I realized that, oh shit, I'm attracted to feminine beauty. And that was definitely a big thing for me, even though throughout my whole life I tried to make it look like it wasn't. I guess I just didn't want to get bullied, and my way of avoiding bullying was to turn everything into a joke and to laugh with people who were mocking me and teasing me for these things. That is also a topic for another video, because that's the topic of boundaries and setting boundaries and understanding boundaries. And let me tell you, until I was 24 or 25, I had no idea what boundaries were. And that resulted in me letting a lot of people harm me, and I would just turn it into a joke. And right now that I have some perspective on that, it's just mind-blowing to me, honestly. The things that I had to endure, it's a lot. It really is. So I guess I'll try to answer the question that I asked in the title of this video. What is my name? I'm okay with Zoe. I'm okay with Raz. But I know if I could just change my name completely right now, it would probably be something completely different. And maybe I'll change my name. That's something that has been on my mind throughout my whole life. Although I gotta say, when I think about changing my name, I only think about what will my family say, because I don't want them to feel bad about that. My real name is still part of my identity. I know that. And it's probably a very big part of identity. It's not something that I will lose. It's not something that I can just get rid of. But I do believe that it would be much easier for me if I had a different name. And I don't know if it will ever happen. So for now, please, call me Zoe, call me Raz, or Razzlehag. Call me the Alternate Explorer. And if I decide that there is something else that I would like to be called, I'll just let you know. And also I use they, them pronouns. Okay, bye!